Hi there, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Roundtable. Here with me, your host, Simon Conboy. We've also got Arnie.
Hi, guys.
And we've got Dan.
Hi, guys.
One day you might get to see his face. I warn you, it's not pleasant.
That's why.
And we also welcome Bucks Hat the Third today. There he is. Admire Bucks Hat the Third. I'm a terrible hat owner, so that's something for everyone to bear in mind. All right, so got some bad news today. So we're going to start off on an angry level, and I'm going to warn you guys. This episode, we normally keep it clean here. This episode, maybe less so. So I think we can all agree here today. The NFL done fucked up.
Yes, they did. I will agree with you on that one.
Oh, absolutely. Although anyone listening is now going, what is he talking about?
I think most people who are listening will know. So, as most people will be aware, Hurricane Irma is heading towards southern Florida. It was reported yesterday that the game was not going to be held in Miami. Perfectly reasonable. Absolutely okay with that one. My thoughts, and I'm sure most people's were, they're going to hold the game in a neutral location. I was thinking Superdome. That makes a lot of sense. You know, Louisiana, not too difficult to get to. I'm sure they'll get plenty of fans in for that one. It's a neutral field. And, yeah, I'm sure it would have been a good turnout. Would have been really cool. As Dan said earlier, and I think that was a really good point, they could have, or was it Lee who said it? Either way, someone made the point that they could have refunded all the tickets and then sold the tickets to this game. Well, all the proceeds, they could have been given to charities for, you know, the situation in Houston and the inevitable likely situation in Florida. Would have been a real good look for the NFL. And it would have, the show must go on, has usually been the approach the NFL takes, from my experience. But normally they're like, okay, something has happened, but this is the NFL, we'll figure something out. This time round, and this is what pisses me off so much about this, this is what makes it such bullshit. They could not be more obvious that this is all about goddamn money. That's what this is. End of story. I will not hear any other argument. There is no other point. There's plenty of options as to where they could have played this game on Sunday. There's plenty of notice for both teams. Both teams said they wanted to play the game on Sunday. And now both of these teams are being punished, basically. Yes, the NFL has a nice coincidence. Both of these teams have the same bye week in week 11. That's wonderful. It gives you an easy out. But this is about money. They don't want to lose the money from that game. So now both of these teams have to sit on their ass in week 1, watch every other team play, and then go out and play 16 straight games. The Dolphins have to play a game in London as well this year. And they're going to have to play 16 straight. It's unprecedented. The closest we've got was when this happened with Baltimore and Houston years ago, and that was in week 2, and they did basically the same thing. And it was bullshit then, and it's bullshit now. Especially when you've got options. It's not like if it was the day before, I could understand. You've got half a week, you're the NFL, you can make this happen. You're choosing not to because of money. I'm surprised the NFLPA have not kicked up a giant fuss about this, because the risk of injury, of course, playing 16 games in a row is significantly higher. That week off is a big deal. And what benefit? Neither team gets a benefit to this whatsoever. They get a little bit more time to game plan for their week 2 opponent. That's it. That's it. The healthiest point the team is at all year, and they get a week off. It's ridiculous. I just do not understand why you would actively punish two teams, especially two teams who are being forced to move. Because of a horrible situation. It's absolutely ridiculous, and this is one of the stupidest things. And don't get me wrong, the NFL has done a lot of stupid things in the last decade. But this is right up there. This is absolutely ridiculous. I'm pissed off. I don't get to watch my Buccaneers game on Sunday. That's annoying. They could have moved it to Monday. They could have played it wherever. It would have been fine. But no, now both of these teams have an actual disadvantage for this season compared to everyone else. Based on the situation utterly beyond their control. An actual competitive disadvantage. It's ridiculous. Surely the focus should be on maintaining the integrity of your league season. above and beyond everything. It's ridiculous. So there we go. That's me for now. What do you guys think?
Well, like that, these are two teams which quite a lot of people, especially the Buccaneers, are pegged for postseason. The Dolphins could make a push late, especially given the fact that after I think they face the Titans in week 8, they've got a real rough schedule going against potentially playoff teams. I mean, if they get through that patch, okay, then they should be looking at postseason as well. I mean, you could be looking 17, 18 games in a row, which is just unprecedented. It shouldn't happen. As you said, the risk of players getting injured is very, very high. I mean, the only player it doesn't matter around and it be okay with will be Doug Martin, because he's going to play the same amount of games no matter what. But it's not right. I think they should have gone to a neutral ground, as you said. There was plenty of options. There's 32 teams in the NFL. There's 16 stadiums there.
You've got college stadiums as well.
And college stadiums, yeah.
There were plenty of options. And that's the thing. There was so much time for them to get this sorted. They've done it before. They did it with the Jets and Detroit a few years ago.
Yeah.
It's an option, and they went with the easy one that saves money. It is as simple as that. As I say, this is the most clear time the NFL has ever come out and just been saying value money and the TV networks, because I've got no doubt the networks had a part in this. We value them more than we value player safety. It undoes all this stuff they're trying to do with player safety by just going, no, the money is more important.
Yeah. I mean, going on the TV network scheduling, obviously, I think this week as well, obviously the Buccaneers and Dolphins games just pegged to be on Sky Sports.
Yeah, and now you punish the English fans. We get the Steelers and the Browns.
I mean, there was 2 other games. I mean, I'm going to come from a homer here, but I think I speak for a lot of other fans when I would rather see, obviously me, I'd definitely rather see the Titans-Oakland game. Which
I think anybody who isn't a Browns or Steelers fan would rather watch that game.
I mean, that's a potential postseason.
Yeah, that's a really interesting game. Marshawn Lynch's return, a lot of stories there.
Well, there's also the other thing as well.
Got injured the same week.
The other thing as well, for week 1, it should have been the Raiders game, because I'm not sure about you two, but one of the most common jerseys and hats I see worn around in
it's the most common
is Raiders.
Yeah.
That's pretty much true wherever you go in the world in terms of American football. But that game would have been good. The other one you could probably argue in that slate would have been Philly and Washington. That's a pretty good game.
Yeah.
But they show enough NFC East over here in this country. Yeah. So, yeah, I think Titans Raiders has so many stories. Mariota coming back from the leg, Marshawn Lynch's return, 2 potential playoff teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, the car injury, that's an interesting game. But no, people are stuck with Deshaun Kaiser struggling against the Steelers in what's likely to be a blowout.
Oh, yeah.
So, here you go, rant over. So, for the rest of the show, unless, Dan, do you have anything to add? Do you think I covered it all?
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it all. I mean, safe to say, these are 2 teams that people had at least somewhat pipped for postseason berths. 16 straight games is just not happening. There's no way they're lasting 16 straight.
Well, the injuries always have luck. You never know when a bye week is going to be useful, but it's just, I find it absurd that you're basically punishing these teams. So that'll be the end of that. So what we're going to do now, go through the injury report and some other bits of news that have turned up. It's been a very eventful week. And then we're going to give you guys a rundown of all the games. Some will go into a bit more detail than others. So we'll start with injury news, I think. So we'll go with quarterback news first, because quarterback news is always big. Tyrod Taylor is expected to play this weekend. I'm sure there's a lot of Bills fans that are probably quite unhappy about this. They seem quite excited about Nathan Peterman. You guys have any thoughts on this?
Woo, no, not really. I actually forgot he was still part of the team.
I don't think it really matters for them either way. They're going to pound it with McCoy.
Yeah, well, they've got the Jets, so it's an ugly game. The other one, the biggest one, I think, is Odell Beckham. We're not sure if he's going to be available on Sunday. I suspect he will, but he might not. Well, he's almost certainly not going to be fully healthy. He didn't practice again today.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, the Giants did do a few bits in the off season to get a bit more depth at that position, but it's one of the greatest receivers.
He is that offense. Like Brandon Marshall's apparently struggled to pick up the system, and he's been dinged up as well.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think that like Beckham as a player at this point, with the way this Giants offense is set up, is about as important a player in terms of non-quarterbacks. I think you could argue he's the most valuable non-quarterback to an offense in football.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's that offense.
Yeah, it's like in 08 with the Cardinals and Fitzgerald. No Fitzgerald, no Cardinals. That's what's happened with Beckham.
Oh, I mean, last year, if you're watching the Giants, there's no chance they make the playoffs without him.
No.
Absolutely none. So this is a big one. Certainly going to be interesting to see if he plays. I think he'll play, but how effective he can be will be interesting.
What are the details on the injury? This is actually one I missed.
It was in the third preseason game. He got absolutely belted in the lower leg. A really, really nasty hit. Fortunately, it didn't catch him on the knee. Otherwise, you could be looking at IR easily. Clean hit, though, by the way. Clean hit. So, not exactly sure what the nature of the injury is, but, it's probably like a high ankle sprain, something along those lines, I would suspect. The other one, actually, stick to quarterback, Cam Newton. Looks like he's going to be playing this weekend. Barely practiced. Him and Joe Flacco, actually, we'll talk about both at the same time because they're both similar situations. Both haven't done too much. Didn't even see Flacco at all in the preseason. What are you expecting from these guys?
Well, I'm not surprised at the Cam Newton one, to be honest with you. There's no way he wasn't playing. The Flacco one, again, I'm also not really surprised about. I expected both of them to play week 1 anyway.
Well, you say that, but then we've got Andrew Luck. He's not playing for the Colts, so
yeah, but
the Colts
in all fairness,
now one of the worst teams in the league for the next few weeks, possibly.
Yeah, but in all fairness, Luck's injury was pretty severe.
So was Cam Newton's.
Yeah.
Okay, either way, but the thing is, though, the difference is Baltimore and Carolina actually have O-lines. Indianapolis has wet paper bags. So
I wouldn't say Carolina's. Carolina's got good run blocking, but their tackles are bad. No, their tackle position is arguably worse. But the difference is, I think the Panthers have legitimate playoff aspirations. I don't know if the Colts do.
No, I think the Colts are going to be playing spoiler this year for if the Titans, God help us, the Jags or the Texans get hot, they'll just be playing spoiler this year. They're looking at the top 5 pick. I'm calling this now.
Well, I think with the Colts trading for Jacoby Brissett, I think they know that Luck is going to be out a significant amount of time.
I think it's a combination of how poor Scott Tolzien looked. They're thinking we need a better option.
Yeah.
So we'll move on from the injury situation. May update that in later episodes as we get nearer to the weekend. And we'll go with some of the news. It's been a big week. I don't ever remember the league being this active in terms of trades just before the start of the season. Do you guys?
No. It's been crazy. It's so much.
Yeah, it struck me as bizarre as well. It's just all off season has been it's mainly been the Bills, but it's trades, more trades.
Yeah, so we'll start with some of the smaller ones and build up to what I suppose is likely going to be the one with the largest impact. So you hinted at the Jacoby Brissett one. We've also got Philip Dorsett, former first-round pick of the Colts, going in the other direction.
While we're on this, I'd like to know what was going on behind the scenes then, because Brissett was third string, wasn't he? He's below.
Behind Garoppolo.
I'm wondering why they didn't go for Garoppolo, or
he would have cost too much.
You reckon that's what the reason was?
Well, if you're trading for Garoppolo, the Patriots clearly want a lot for him. Otherwise, he'd have been picked up by somebody. they're asking for a lot.
Yeah,
By all accounts, they really believe Garoppolo could be the successor to Brady, so I think they're going to cling to him for as long as possible. And also his value kind of just goes up while he's got that mystique to him. The Colts aren't looking for a long-term starter. They've still got Andrew Luck.
Yeah, true, but at the same time, there's... Well, I mean, this is just me personally. There's a lot to be said about maybe trading for Garoppolo. If he proves to be good, you've then got some good trade bait with him on your side as well.
But you have to give up is too much, especially if he ends up tanking, which he could well do on a pretty poor Colts team.
Oh, yeah.
You then get a lot of assets, and you might get nothing.
Yeah, you don't want another Brock Osweiler situation, do you, really?
No. Unfortunately, for the Texans, Brock just cost them money. I mean, he cost them a second-round pick in the end, but in what was a bizarre situation. Do you guys think the Patriots, on the other side of things, get anything out of this? Do you see Philip Dorsett, who basically has done nothing for the Colts, actually doing anything?
As we know, Brady and Belichick always turn nobody receivers into somebody's.
Yeah,
I know. There's been a lot of misses there at receiver in New England.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to be anywhere near an Edelman or a Welker or anything like that. But I think he'd be okay. He's not going to be a threat.
I think he's Brandon Cook's insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, you got to bear in mind as well how many receivers kind of end up in New England. New England seems to be like the final destination, like the sieve for receivers, because I don't know if there's any receivers in this league who ended up in New England who, when they failed there, then basically ended their careers. So if you can't get it working in New England with Tom Brady, you ain't going nowhere. With the exception of Randy Moss, who went on to do nothing in Tennessee.
Well, the thing with New England is they move the bottom of that roster about so much. They're as active as anyone. That they get a lot of kudos because when they hit, they hit. But there's also a lot of players that they trade for or they pick up that don't actually do anything. So it's a little bit of, throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks. This is one that I don't think will stick, but they're giving up a third string quarterback. Dorsett has talent. He's a speedster. I just see him as insurance for Brandon Cooks. Maybe long term, I doubt it because Dorsett's shown me that little as a player at this point.
Yeah, it probably is insurance for Brandon Cooks, but if anyone's going to
it's going to be a fight for him just to see the field, even with the Edelman injury.
Yeah, but Belichick must have seen something in him to trade for him. I mean, we all know Belichick. There's talent. Talking about a coach who doesn't care that much about athleticism, because Welker and all those others he's had. But football IQ, on the other hand, he must have seen something in him.
I think Dorsett's the opposite. Dorsett has not shown much football IQ, but he is fast. He's just a burner. But we'll move on from that one, and we'll go with what was one that's flown a bit under the radar. Kind of a double move in the end. So the Buccaneers signed TJ Ward, who was released by the Broncos after an injury-plagued season last year. And then as a result, the Buccaneers traded away free agent signing JJ Wilcox, who they'd signed from the Cowboys, to the Steelers for a pittance. So, from my perspective as a Buccaneers fan, Wilcox was, when we signed him, thoroughly expected to start. He'd been a starter for the Cowboys for the last couple of seasons, played pretty well last year. Clearly, he was different. They didn't get the guy they thought they were getting. TJ Ward hit the market. He's a proven player, as long as he's healthy. We know TJ Ward's a solid thumper in the middle. I think we can all agree on that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love the TJ Ward signing. Yeah, he had injury plagues, but when the guy plays, man, he can play.
Yeah, and the Buccaneers have had issues at safety forever. Anything that makes it less likely Chris Conte starts,
yeah,
the thumbs up from me. So I think. Also, with Justin Evans, the Buccaneers' second-round pick, I think they're similar types of player in terms of their style, so I think this might help his development.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gives the Bucs an experienced player. Timing's a bit odd, and the Steelers definitely get better at safety because that was a big question mark. Any other thoughts on that one? Or we're all good?
Well, the Steelers just continue to get stronger as they.
Yeah, they've been incredibly active. We didn't really talk about their two other deals much last week, but we'll go with the simpler one first. And I'll just throw this out briefly. Vance McDonald, I think that was a great trade for them. Gives them an athletic tight end. He performed well for the Niners last year. Another weapon. I think that's a very smart trade. Surprised the Niners got rid of him.
Yeah.
But the big one, Joe Hayden. Who wants to start off on the Bill Browns releasing him and him signing with the Steelers?
Well, we touched on this last week, didn't we? When the
but I think when we're looking at 3 signings in such a short space of time for this team.
Well, firstly, I did say, I'm not sure if I said it on the show or on the pre-show, but I did say I thought the Steelers would go for him.
They made their interest apparent immediately.
Well, I said to you after the show has ended, from time of official cutting of him to signing was 8 hours? I think I said.
Yeah.
8 hours. It's almost unprecedented. It's like when Rivas was cut back in the day. Didn't take that long either.
It's corners. Everyone needs corners.
Yeah. Well, I just look at this as Pittsburgh pushing really hard to get all the way back to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, it certainly feels that way. I mean, they look absolutely ready to compete at the top of the AFC. I think them and the Patriots are the clear favourites. And between these 3 deals, the Steelers have just got stronger at 3 positions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Hayden's ever going to be the guy that we saw in his prime in Cleveland. Too many injuries. I think he's been sacked a little, but he's an improvement on what they had. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the strong just continue to get stronger. It's the same showing of what the Pats have done.
Just a concern, and now they've got an experienced safety, an experienced corner.
Yeah.
Well,
they've got tight ends now.
Is arguably 2 of the strongest AFC teams, and pretty much year in, year out, 2 of the strongest AFC teams have been weirdly active this offseason. The Steelers and the Pats have been ridiculously active.
Well, the Patriots always are, but for the Steelers, this is definitely not normal service. This is them acknowledging that. I think with Roethlisberger in particular, I think the window's closing.
Roethlisberger did say that he doesn't think he'd be playing next year.
I can't see him playing a huge amount longer because he's been absolutely battered throughout his career. This isn't like Brady can play till 40 because he's been a pocket passer who's spent most of his career nice and clean. Roethlisberger has been absolutely battered. He played behind some terrible O-lines for large chunks of his career in Pittsburgh, and he's been injured a heck of a lot. I wouldn't blame him for retiring a bit earlier than some people expect. He's done everything you can do.
Yeah.
Well, because don't forget as well, this left. I'm not sure how other people have seen this, but this led to the little meme we had in our little group, which was injured Roethlisberger is one of the most dangerous players in the NFL, which at the time was true.
Up until last year, he struggled at the end of the season a little. But speaking of big trades by Super Bowl contenders, and I think this is a team that's quietly doing something similar, actually, and acknowledging the window might be closing, and that's the Seattle Seahawks trading for Sheldon Richardson. Now, the cost was pretty steep. They gave up a second rounder and Jermaine Kearse for a player on a 1-year contract who's been a bit of a headache from a personal standpoint for the Jets. Now, defensive tackle is a huge need for this team, especially with the rookie Malik McDowell's auto accident likely making him a non-factor for this season. So, my looking at this trade, massive for the Seahawks. They're definitely better this season. No doubt. They were already possibly the favourite in the NFC, if not one of 2 or 3 teams. Shores up their biggest weakness, and I think it's them making a final run because Pete Carroll is damn old, and I think it's going to be very difficult to keep this defence together too much longer just because of a salary perspective.
Yeah, that's pretty much what along the lines of my thinking. The salary is going to bite them in the ass at one point. I mean, that defense is loaded with multi-million contracts.
It's as talented a group as I think I've ever seen. I mean, you've now got 3 studs on the line in Averill, Bennett and Richardson, Bobby Wagner, Sherman, the pair of safeties in Thomas and Chancellor. I mean, that's a heck of a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And also
great trade for the Jets as well. That's pretty good value, I think they get.
Oh yeah, actually, I said
a guy who's going to be a free agent next year.
Yeah, I did say to Arnie actually earlier. I was very surprised that they traded Curse because he's been quite productive for the Seahawks over the past couple of years.
He's been reasonably so, but they've got that Paul Richardson. Apparently, they've been impressed with. Tyler Lockett gives them their deep threat. I think it's just a case of he's a guy that's going to leave at some point because they won't be able to pay him.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's the thing though, isn't it? Is the price of that defense is going to pretty much start gutting the team.
It's a combination. It's a combination of that. Russell Wilson's on big wedge, and so is Jimmy Graham. So it's just that when you've got a lot of stars, it's hard to pay all of your stars. But this trade definitely makes the Seahawks better now. My one question mark with them was the defensive tackle position. I think Richardson will be motivated and potentially be, at his best. And if so, this defense went from being great to being, even better than it was.
Yeah, although I mean, I haven't obviously seen exact numbers, as far as their salary cap is concerned. But judging from this, the rumour that was floating about during the off-season this year may actually come true next year. I actually think they will end up getting rid of Sherman.
They're going to have to get rid of one of their high-priced guys at some point. That's just the nature of it. They've had to skimp along the offensive line and at the running back position. Have not been very active in free agency the last couple of years because they can't be. But the defense is the heartbeat of that team. They've done a great job keeping it together as long as they have. It's just I don't know how much longer it can go on, and I feel like this trade's an acknowledgement of that.
Oh yeah, no, agreed. Although I don't know why, I have this weird feeling that the Seahawks are going to absolutely implode this year, and I don't know why. And this isn't me being a Cardinals fan. Shut up.
Last year, that there were a few more sideline spats than normal. Now, don't get me wrong, there's sideline spats in Seattle. That's just kind of how Carroll lets the team figure itself out. He's not the most hands-on in terms of that kind of thing, lets the players be. But it's certainly possible if things go south quickly. They've certainly got with Richardson's another combustible character. I don't think it will happen. I think they'll be fine. They've got a pretty easy schedule, and I don't think the division will threaten them too much. So you never know, though. Come playoff time, who knows? Are there any other bits of news we wanted to mention?
Well, two relatively minor ones. But since we were talking about the Seahawks, keep it in the division. Aaron Donald's holdout. He may not play.
What are the Rams doing?
Just pay the man.
Yeah. That's all that can be really said about this news story. Just pay. Have you seen what he's currently on, by the way? I've got the numbers in front of me.
Yeah, he's on something like 3 or 4 mil this year.
No.
It might even be less.
No. Considering who we're talking about, this is the Aaron Donald. 2017, he is due 1.8 million.
Yeah, and it goes up to like 7 next year.
It's 6.9 next year for
Aaron
Donald. That's like turning around to JJ Watt and going, yeah, we're only going to pay you $1.
Well, it's just one of those where, I like the rookie scale because I think it protects teams from busts and it forces first round picks in particular to earn their money. I don't know what more Aaron Donald could have done for this franchise to have earned that money. Last year, he was the best defensive player in football for my money.
Yeah.
And he's been dominant since day one.
Well, here's the thing, actually, before we get off this, because this is obvious. This is an obvious news story. It's just pay the man.
Just pay the man.
Do you think he'll actually refuse to play week 1, though? I'm wondering, will it...
Yeah, I do not doubt it at all.
So you reckon they're playing a ticket?
Before as well. We've seen this before, but I can't remember what player exactly it was now. But
it's been a while since there's been a significant player actually hold out and miss games. I can't remember the last time. But, I mean, this would be the most significant one.
Yeah.
Not that I think the Rams are going to do anything this year, but, without him, they got no chance. And I just don't like the message it sends to the team either, because if you're not going to sort out your best player, your undeniably best player, then I don't know. I wouldn't be happy with this if I was a fan. I wouldn't be happy with this if I was in the locker room. It doesn't make sense to me. It's quite similar we've got Dwayne Brown in a similar situation in Houston.
Yeah, he's going to miss week 1.
And their O-line's horrible.
I know.
You've got your one... They've got a good centre. So they've got a centre and they've got left tackle. Now they're just like, We've got Tom Savage. He doesn't really need a left tackle, apparently. Madness. Absolute madness. I do question the logic of these teams sometimes. I know you don't want to be like held up to ransom by players.
Yeah.
But especially your players who've been consistently great for you. Like show them some respect.
Yeah.
Although, and obviously moving on to the last bit of news, which is probably good news for fantasy football owners, is Ezekiel Elliott actually playing week 1.
This isn't good news. This is not good news for fantasy football owners.
No.
Okay, so for people who...
Because it means I have to play against him in week 1.
Fine, but yeah, he's actually going to play week 1, and if I remember correctly, Dallas are playing the Giants, so...
Yeah, it's a big game. I mean, the Giants are great against the run, so...
It's probably not great for fantasy owners in that regard.
I'm looking forward to it from a football player's... Like, forget fantasy. I'm looking forward to this from a football perspective. One of the best defensive lines against one of the best offensive lines and one of the best running backs. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's Damon Harrison and those ends. It's going to be good. Going to be good. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but
yeah, that's basically that's all the biggest news stories covered. Got a couple of minor reactions, but yeah, that's about it.
Anything else we feel significant we'll cover later on in the week. We got a lot to get to, so we're going to start with our game previews. Some of these games are going to focus on a bit more than others, and when you notice what games they are, I'm sure you'll understand. First, this will be one of the games we focus on, of course, the season opener between the defending Super Bowl champions, as is now the tradition, hosting a game on Thursday night, and they're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, my first thought on this is people are not that excited about this game. It's weird. I'm really excited about this game, not just because it's the first game, but I love this matchup.
Well, we discussed this on the last show, didn't we? I think it was pretty much unanimous between the three of us. All three of us think the Chiefs are actually a contender, but no one else seems to be.
Most people
think
they're a degree of a contender. They're a really good team, and the thing for me that makes this so fascinating is they're the kind of team that I think can give the Patriots problems, because their defense is just loaded.
Yeah.
There's talent at every level. The Patriots do not have a great line, and they've got to deal with Benny Logan, D Ford, Justin Houston should be fully healthy, and when he's fully healthy, he's as good as there is. As Eric Berry, you've got
Marcus Peters.
Yeah, this is not the best week to be Brandon Cooks. I think he's just going to get smothered by Peters all day long.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, between Berry and Derek Johnson, they're the kind of team that can actually not stop Gronk, because you can't stop Gronk, but they're a sort of team that could slow him down a little bit. They're going to be hard to run on. I think they win at the line of scrimmage. I don't expect the Patriots to put up a huge amount of points in this game.
No, I don't see this being a particularly high-scoring game, unless for some reason Brady goes like banana nut butters for 60 minutes, in which case it could be. That's like 1 in a million.
That can happen, but it's a very good unit. I'm expecting the Patriots to go full-blown dinky dunk this week. Now, they're normally, very much a short passing kind of team. I think with the pass rushing ability of this Chiefs defense, you're going to see a lot of these running backs rotated and catching passes. You're going to see a lot of the slot guys. I think Brandon Cooks is basically going to be ignored. They'll just let Marcus Peters do his thing. And I think Gronkowski is going to do a lot of run blocking, and I don't think he gets targeted as much as people think.
Well, we've seen it before when Brady is facing a team that is of the caliber, especially the defense of the caliber that the Chiefs are. He gets the ball out of his hands so quickly, but it's effective. So this is where I think, personally, from my sort of preview with this, I think the Patriots will take this game because Brady knows how to deal with defenses like this. He's seen it all before.
He's seen it all, yeah. It's just, if there's one team that I think can give him fits in the AFC in terms of their defensive capabilities, I do think it's the Chiefs. Yeah. I don't think there's a better defense set up in terms of quality in the secondary and in terms of the pass rush. And they're not going to be easy to run on. I think the Chiefs do a number. The question for me, for the Chiefs to have a chance, because they're not going to get a lot of sacks. That's just, Brady's going to get rid of the ball really quick. That will be the game plan. They've got to get pressure on him, of course, as you always do. But Brady in particular, if you don't get pressure, he'll carve you up. Yeah. They're going to have to get some quick pressures and force him to make a couple of bad decisions. They're going to need a couple of turnovers from somewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
they are the kind of defense that can get them.
You can rely on their offense playing it safe. We know with
both offenses, I expect to operate in a similar fashion in this game.
I mean, Alex Smith, we all know he plays the dink dunk. Before I think last year I can't remember how many games that he hadn't thrown a touchdown to a wide receiver. So
I remember that streak.
So we know that he keeps everything dinky-dunky, but he can get down the field effectively. They're quite similar on that regard of sort of offenses.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of eerie, isn't it? Both the Patriots offense and the Chiefs offense share a lot in common, and it's really weird.
They do. Their makeup is somewhat similar. A lot of, short passes, a lot of yards after the catch, a lot of screens, running backs catch the ball.
I can say this is going to be one of those games that's going to be decided by a single turnover because
I think this game is going to be close. It's going to be very close. I think the thing with the other side of the ball, when you've got the Chiefs offense and the Patriots defense, we all know, you've got the cliche that's very much true that Belichick tends to focus on taking away one element in particular, and taking his chances with the rest. Now, that element is going to be Travis Kelce to me.
Well, it has to be. It has to be. He's their red zone target. Well, he's their number one red zone target. He's the number one target for Alex Smith. You take him away, and it doesn't leave him with a great deal.
It leaves him with Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. But Tyreek Hill could be a factor that Belichick would like to take away because he knows how destructive Tyreek Hill can be.
Yeah, I mean, Hill's a game breaker. He can score on any opportunity. You give him the ball, he can score. But I think Kelce, you'll see Devin McCourty over the top of him, I think, all game long. And I think you'll see Hightower. The Patriots are very good against tight ends.
Yeah.
So I think they'll defend him pretty effectively. Hill's going to need to break a play at some point, something big. I think Gilmore's the guy that gets put on him. I think the reason they gave Gilmore that money, he's more physically talented than Malcolm Butler is. So I think he's the guy who gets that matchup. Now, the thing with Gilmore is whether, one, he's trying very hard, and two, whether he makes mistakes, because he will guess, and Hill could make him pay.
Yeah.
But in terms of the other thing, this is the big difference in the matchup for me. The Patriots' pass rush, where's it coming from?
Well, it's pretty much non-existent, isn't it?
No.
Yeah, and I think that also could be a significant factor. They're going to be hard to run on. I think that's going to be the case for both teams. I mean, the Pats are great against the run. Those two in the middle, Branch and Brown, are monsters.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if there's one X factor, it is Tyreek Hill and the amount of time I expect Alex Smith to have.
Yeah. I think that's what the game will come down to.
It'll be.
I see both teams trying to use the run game to eat up the clock, but I don't think each team has a running game which they can rely on.
No, I think both teams' defensive fronts are too good against the run for these backs and these offensive lines to be able to say they're going to control the line of scrimmage with the run game. So I think they'll be both teams will sprinkle it in, but I'm not expecting it to be a big factor for either side. If the running backs are going to impact the game, I think it will be in the pass game.
Yeah.
So with that said, any final points on this game?
I just want to know who you think's going to win.
There we go. That's how we end it. I think Patriots win by 3 or 4. I think it's a one-score game. It's close. I can't bet against the Patriots at home. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. They are in Foxborough, aren't they? Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to bet against the Patriots in Foxborough. So I'm gonna.
If any team can do it, it's the Chiefs.
Well, you've had a couple of teams beat them in their own house, but the thing is though, is the one unifying thing. Okay, obviously, yeah, I know I'm not being biased, but the Cardinals a couple of years ago were the first team to beat them in Foxborough for years, I think, and the Chiefs' form of attack will probably have to be the same. But as everyone always says, you've got to put ridiculous pressure on Brady to throw without blitzing. That's the key point.
This team can do that. I think that's an important aspect.
I have no doubt. I think it's going to be a close one, but I'm still going to give it to New England unless, as I said, Brady goes on a bananas run and just starts like throwing out touchdowns like nobody's business. But no, New England in the close one, say one-score game, the winning touchdown's going to come from the turnover from Alex Smith.
Fair enough, Arnie.
I think the Pats take it. I think I put up a score recently. I think I said 24-17 or something like that. Again, close game, touchdown. Yeah, absolutely. It's the kind of game that could certainly come down to one mistake. So from a really good game to a really bad game, the Jets versus the Bills.
Yay, tire fire, woo!
Whoever loses this game ends up with number 1 pick.
Agreed.
That's what I'm saying on that.
Well, I've said this before, this Jets roster is the worst roster I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the Bills traded away most of their talent to make them like the second worst.
They did, but they've still got a great defensive line, and they've still got LaShawn McCoy, and that's why they win this game.
Yeah.
I've got, just for reference purposes, I've got Buffalo winning this. I think everyone's got Buffalo winning this.
I think LaShawn McCoy has a monster day.
So good news for fantasy owners. Ching ching. But, yeah, no, this is just a tire fire of the game. This is going to be horrific to watch if I bother watching it.
McCown's just going to get beat up. I cannot see the Jets offense being productive against that front four.
No.
I think Tyrod Taylor would do a bit of running away from
Leonard Williams
in this game, and that'll be fun to watch.
So we're all on the Bills on this one, and I think they win comfortably.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right, we'll move on to another game I'm not expecting to be too close. The Atlanta Falcons playing against the Chicago Bears in Chicago.
I have a dissenting opinion.
Do we all have the Falcons?
No.
I have the Falcons, but it all depends how the Falcons respond their first game from that Super Bowl loss. That's the only thing that if they respond well, then there you go. They're going to run over this game. Yeah, I mean, if they come in and they're still a bit, you can see that the loss is still hanging on them, then I still expect them to win the game, but maybe might not be as much of a deficit.
See, I'm going to have a dissenting opinion here just because I like a little bit of week 1 drama. I think what's going to happen is the Bears are going to win. People are going to be like, oh, look, the Bears are suddenly good again, and they're going to be poo the rest of the year. That's what's going to happen. The Bears are going to win this one against Atlanta of all people, and then that's it.
Well, we do normally get a couple of shocks in week 1.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure this is the game for it. I think the Bears are going to be better than people think because I think their defense is going to be good, and I think they'll be able to run the ball.
Wait, hold on. So what you're telling me is the Bears are who we think they are?
I think the Bears will be who I think they are, yeah. And, I'm going to hold them to that. I don't want to have to let them off the hook. But,
no, I'd like...
that's why they take to the field.
In all fairness, I'd like the Bears to win because...
Oh, I would.
I have
yeah.
an irrational hatred for Atlanta. They're not even in my division. But realistically speaking, yeah, Atlanta's
How
gonna.
do the Bears stop Julio
Well,
with
that's the thing. The Falcons are realistically going to just walk away with this. That's it.
Well, they're still an offensive juggernaut. I like the Bears front seven. I hate their secondary. And I think they'll have some success running the ball, but Atlanta's just going to have way too much for them.
Yeah.
I see this being a blowout. I see it getting out of hand early.
Oh, yeah, agreed. Oh, unless at halftime the score's 28-3, then the Bears will win.
Bear in mind how good this Atlanta offense is. How can you expect Mike Glennon to keep up with his starting receivers being your boy?
Kevin White.
Yeah, Kevin White, who's shown nothing since he was drafted. And let's face it, Kendall Wright's not shown a huge amount more. So
drops is what you've shown.
Yeah, so that's this one we were all expecting to get somewhat ugly, other than Dan, you're going with the shocker.
Well, I'd like the shocker because it would be.
What do you think is going to happen?
Atlanta's going to run away with it, obviously.
There we go.
I
So
want to give some hope to those poor suffering Bears fans out there.
I think they're going to be better than the Bears. You're going to be all right.
I think Jordan Howard will have himself a nice day though.
Early on, maybe. I just see
Silver
that and him being a non-factor eventually.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next game. A game that a couple of years ago would have been incredibly exciting. An AFC North battle. The Ravens heading to Cincinnati to play against the Bengals. This game doesn't feel as good as it could.
No.
A couple of years ago, this would have been great. Now, both of these teams feel like they're on the downswing.
This is a bit of a lackluster game. I mean, it still has potential to be pretty good, but it feels a bit lackluster.
In all fairness, though, is anyone not going to be doubting the fact that this is just going to be the AJ Green show, all 60 minutes?
I don't know. This Ravens defense I'm expecting to be good, and their secondary is fantastic.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah,
I don't know AJ Green's going to make his plays because AJ Green, but this is one of the hardest matchups for me to call this week, I think.
All depends on, obviously, if Flacco is starting, if he's 100% starting, and what Flacco turns up.
Well, I mean, you've got that. For me, the Bengals, this new look offensive line is the most important aspect of their season. How well they can hold up.
I think
it's going to be hard to run. The Ravens going to be stout against the run once again. I think their defense is going to be good. The only area I worry is the pass rush, but I think the rest of it, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I've actually called this as the Bengals winning. I actually think they'll win quite handily. I think Baltimore got, I
agree. I think the Bengals win simply because
injuries have kind of might have affected their season.
I think Baltimore have similar problems on the offensive line. They've got some new guys that they're breaking in. They haven't had a run game in years. I don't see that changing in this game. I like the Bengals' defense. I think they've got some good young players there. And I just think they'll have enough. And on top of that, they've got some chemistry there. I think Flacco, first game back. Mike Wallace. I mean, Jeremy Maclin will end up being a good signing, I think. But, they kind of throw the ball too much together. I think the Bengals end up winning.
Yeah.
And they're at home. That always helps. But I think it's an ugly, low-scoring affair.
Yeah, I agree on this.
Okay, now on to another AFC North battle. DeShone Kaiser's first start as the Browns host the Steelers.
Wait, hold on. I take eye of what you just said. A battle implies there are two sides in this game.
This is going to be, the Browns have got a lot of young players on their team.
Yeah.
This is going to be watching them struggle to adjust to full speed, and it's going to be the Steelers showing their dominance. Yeah.
All these young, talented players on the Browns' defence that I'm excited to see develop.
There's going to be a lot of mistakes.
Week one. There you go, guys. Arguably the best defence in the NFL. How about you?
Yeah, we know that Pittsburgh, even though they don't have Dick LeBeau there anymore, we know they can still give you some weird looks on that defense. It's going to confuse Kaiser, completely confused. There's going to be
have to try and keep up,
and there will be a lot of turnovers by one team.
I feel more sorry for the rookies on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be, see this guy. This is Le'Veon Bell. Welcome to the NFL, kids.
You've got Antonio Brown as well. You've got Martavius Bryant. I mean, they're stacked.
And Roethlisberger. Yeah. I feel sorry for.
And one of the best O lines in football as well.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Garrett. He's going to try and take down Roethlisberger and be like, yeah, this is Big Ben, dude. You know,
Garrett will get there. I'm calling it. Garrett gets attacked in this one, at least one.
Yeah, but you've got, you know...
A good line in the waiver is not going to be good enough to keep this guy out of the backfield. And you know what Ben's like. He'll hold on to the ball a couple of times. Garrett will get his opportunities.
Yeah. But I think we're all in agreement that this one is a complete blowout by the Steelers.
Yeah, rookie quarterback. Like I do think the Browns going to be much improved, but I think it's going to take some time. Yeah. And, you know, going up against the juggernaut.
Yeah.
Cool. Move on to what I think is one of the more underrated games of the weekend, because I just can't call this one. Arizona heading to Detroit to play against the Lions.
Yeah, this one has flown under the radar, and I think this has a potential to be
a team that wasn't too far off last year.
Yeah.
This is obviously my perspective. This is actually going to be one of those statement games for the year. The Cardinals, we've had so many issues going into the off-season. You know, we've had
pretty down this year.
Yeah, I mean Bruce Arians has even pretty much come out and said he's pretty much down on the whole team at the moment because we just weren't performing in the off-season. This is going to be one of those statement games. Obviously, I'm going with the Cardinals because I'll always pick the Cardinals regardless of what team it is. But
here's an interesting one for you though, as a Cardinals fan. Do you think this could be Bruce Arians' last go-around?
No. No.
Bear in mind his age and some of the issues this team has. If Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer, this is their last year, do you think Bruce Arians, at his age, wants to go for a full rebuild with this team?
No, to be honest, no, I don't think so. No way.
You think he just loves it too much?
Well, come on, anyone who watched the All or Nothing series can see it with Bruce Arians. He loves the game too much. I don't think going into rebuild wouldn't bother him.
I disagree with that. I think this is his last go around.
I suspect if things go really badly, I think it is. I hope it's not, because he's one of the league's better characters.
I think this is...
everyone loves Bruce Arians. We can agree on that.
Yeah. I think this is, for them, I mean, excuse the pun, but this is all or nothing. Sorry about the pun, but this is the year they should have decided.
It feels like a big year, because there's a lot of issues.
It's not even feels like this is a big year. I mean, I don't think BA will leave at the end of the year, regardless of how it ends up.
But I mean, in terms of personnel, if you lose Larry Fitzgerald, you lose Carson Palmer. It just feels like this team goes a long way away from contending anytime soon, unless they get lucky with the quarterback situation.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. As far as I'm concerned, I've been looking at this, and I said this since the end of last year. Was this year is going to be Fitz and Palmer's last go around. Palmer, there's no way Palmer can hold on much longer. Fitz, you know, I don't think he'll last another season.
Fitz could keep going. It's just whether he wants to.
Yeah, but I think he will retire a Cardinal. And obviously you've got other issues. Yeah, the O-line is always going to be an issue. You've got people there who've been in the league for a bit too long.
But we actually do need to get this back on track, actually, in regard to the game with the Lions. So we'll go to the Detroit side for a second. I think these teams are interesting because I think they've both got a lot of question marks. I look at both defences in particular, and I've got no idea what they're going to look like. On paper, the Lions' defence looks really soft.
That's exactly what I thought as well. Was on paper the Lions' defense looks soft, but this is also going to be a good test for Cardinals' defense with Stafford. You know, we're getting that pass.
Their defense has pieces, the Cardinals, but there's a lot of unknown commodities there.
No, but this is going to be more of a test for the getting pressure on the quarterback, considering that D-line has been decimated during the off-season. Even just Campbell leaving.
I mean, it's a pretty good front that the Lions have. Taylor Decker's missing, which helps immensely. And I think the Cardinals will be able to get edge rush. Golden and Jones are very good. It's just the interior is where I worry that the Cardinals might be a little bit overmatched because you've got a really good pair of guards there in Detroit and a decent centre. Ricky Wagner was brought over as the right tackle. He's a great run blocker. And Amir Abdullah, when he's been healthy, has been very good. So that's an area I'm intrigued to watch because really it's a great unknown, this Cardinals front seven, beyond the two edge rushers.
I think this game is going to come down on Arizona's side just with one thing, which is can the Lions reliably stop David Johnson, which is basically going to be the story all year for the Cardinals.
Well, I mean, the thing with the Lions is Ezekiel Anderson needs to be right this year. Last year, he was injured all year, didn't play well. He needs to get back to his form from a couple of years ago. Darius, I don't know how that front seven's going to hold up. It's pretty much a whole new group like the linebackers, Jared Davis, their first round pick. I just don't know what they're going to look like. I don't know what this Cardinals offense is going to look like other than lots of David Johnson and the odd throw to Fitz. I favour...
I can safely say
this is a tough one. How do we think Detroit's passing game matches up against the Cardinals?
Stafford's better than Palmer, but I think our receivers are better.
The Lions have the better line, but
there's that. So I don't know. This is, as I said, this is basically the Riddler game because this is
one of the hardest games to call this week.
Yeah, this is just question marks all over with this game. I'm picking the Cardinals to win because I have to. But I mean, obviously, who do you two think will end up on top?
I've got Detroit taking this one.
I can see this going either way. I favour Detroit simply because I trust Matthew Stafford more than I trust. The Cardinals' offense has been such a mixed bag outside of David Johnson. Like over the course of last season, the preseason, it's been inconsistent. I think Stafford, now that he's healthy, with healthy guys and a decent O-line, I think he'll have just enough to get it done. But wouldn't surprise me if this game goes either way.
I mean, I don't think either defense is going to be too much of a factor in this game. It's going to come down to both offenses, and I believe in Matthew Stafford more. And I've seen it before.
The Lions have a more complete offense, I think.
Yeah, I've seen it before with the Cardinals, and I think they will get gashed on the run in this game.
But I do think David Johnson has a monster game because, of course, he does.
I'm looking forward to that for my fantasy team.
Yes, of course. Moving on from that game, which we're clearly more intrigued by than most, it seems. We've got Jacksonville heading to Houston. I can only see this going one way quickly, especially after all the this situation in Houston. The only thing I can see is a fired up Houston team coming out and murdering this Jacksonville team.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah. They've got the fairy tale thing on their side, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would like Jacksonville to win this game
against Blake Bortles. I'm taking the Texans all day.
Yeah, I would like Jacksonville to win just purely for the fact of they are the weaker side and going towards playoff time. It's going to benefit Tennessee,
the possibility Jacksonville has for me is their defense manages to get some turnovers and Leonard Fournette goes really well. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a chance the Jags win this game because both of these offenses are looking weak and both of these defenses look very good.
It will come down to a defensive error.
I trust Bortles to make more mistakes than Tom Savage.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I expect this to be an ugly game.
Yeah, I'm calling this as a field goal game with the defensive turnovers making the pick.
For me, I think the true factor of this game comes down to the wide receivers in this game. I believe Jacksonville has got the stronger wide receivers right now due to injuries with Houston.
Jacksonville's secondary looks great on paper.
Yeah, and I think if Blake Bortles can get the ball to Allen Robinson and Alan Hurns, I think Jacksonville might sneak away with this game.
You never know with Fournette as well. He's an X factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's the rub, isn't it? I mean, you can say Jacksonville got better wide receivers, but they've got Bortles throwing to.
I just don't trust their pass protection. That's why I think the Texans win this comfortably. I just think those 3 studs in that front 7 for the Texans, they managed to make more than enough plays to make this a comfortable win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
but
this was an easy pick.
This is a fired up team. That's the thing that's coming into this.
Yeah, JJ Watt back on the field as well. You know he's going to be amped up for this one. So we'll move on to the next game. This one of the games that we're going to focus on, and we'll start with you on this one, Arnie. The Raiders versus the Titans.
I need this.
So
well,
how do you see this as a Titans fan? Great matchup, by the way.
I love this matchup, and I hate this matchup.
It's not exactly a cushy, nice week 1 start, is it?
No, I mean, the biggest issue I have with this game is our secondary, and I'm assuming every other Tennessee fan has as well. I mean, they have got themselves some weapons on that Oakland offense, and
their offense just looks complete. That's the thing.
And they've got a hell of a quarterback to throw him to. And as we've seen during the preseason, it is only preseason, and we saw last year.
We've seen for several years now.
This secondary is not very good. And it's still going to take a while. There's a lot of new pieces on the secondary. We still don't have a number 1 corner. This is not a secondary which is going to be in tune in this game. And I see us getting completely gashed over the pass. I don't see their run game coming into a factor in this game at all. I think, to be honest, we'd be able to stuff Marshawn Lynch. We've done it before in the past with a lot of strong running.
Their O-line's very good. That's my concern for you guys. You can try all those exotic pressures and stuff, but they're a very good offensive line, and Carr is very good against the blitz.
Yes, he is. But I think flipping over to the other side of the ball, I think it's kind of going to have the exact same thing for both teams. I mean, Oakland secondary, again, not very good.
Oakland's defense as a whole, other than pass rushers, doesn't have a great amount of talent.
Yeah, and it's the exact same on the other side of the ball with Tennessee. We've got some good pass rushers there. And the offenses have potential to be, again, the same. Another great O-line. That way, I won't give my segment this week. Our weekly Taylor the one. But
go on, you know you want to.
Nah, not this week. After I see a couple of pancakes this week, maybe then. But this game's going to come down to if Mariota can be accurate and consistent, and if that running game gets going. This one, for me, my X factor in this game is Derrick Henry. I think he will play a big part in this game.
Fair enough. Try and wear him out. My perspective on this now, I have to favour the Raiders because I agree with you. I think these are 2 very similar teams in their construction. They've both got some talent rush in the passer. They've got some depth and quality there. A lot of question marks across the rest of the defence and some pretty complete-looking offences. I have to favour the Raiders just because of the chemistry and experience those guys have together. You're looking at Mariota going in with basically a bunch of receivers that are new to the offence and scheme, and a lot of them who haven't practiced very much with him at this point in Decker, Corey Davis. When you look at the Cooper and Crabtree relationship with Carr, and on top of that, Carr's just further ahead than Mariota in his development at this point. I've just got to favour the Raiders in this game.
I mean, as well. I mean, the good thing for us is we do have all of our receivers healthy, barring Tajay Sharp. All of our receivers are healthy. Whether we see a lot of Corey Davis in this game, we don't know yet. I think my
worry is that the Raiders score enough points early that the Titans have to get away from the run game a little.
Yeah,
and
that's one thing we need to hold on to.
You might see the difference. I think the Raiders wouldn't mind that. That's the way they want this game to go.
Well, yeah. And both teams, I think, are looking at doing the exact same thing. But obviously, given the fact that Tennessee are one of the best teams running the football right now, you want to get us away from that as quickly as you can.
Yeah. Khalil Mack, I expect to make plays because he's Khalil Mack.
I mean, as a non-Titan fan, unfortunately, I do see this game going to Oakland. But as a Titan fan, obviously, I see us winning this game.
Dan, what's your input on this one?
Well, as you said, I mean, we've got two very similar teams. I actually think this is going to be, oddly, it's going to be a shootout, which is odd. Shootout in Tennessee in the same sense.
Yeah, it doesn't sound correct, does it?
I think it's going to be a repeat of that Tennessee Lions game from a couple of years back.
That game was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those, but I also think one of the biggest X factors in this is going to be the defensive coaching, because obviously the Titans have got, you can never take away from having Dick LeBeau on your sideline. I think one of the key influences in this game are going to be the defensive scheming, especially against that receiving core that the Raiders have. I think that might actually put it in Tennessee's favour if the defensive coaching keeps up with those ridiculous receivers Oakland has.
So, where's your edge? Who have you got winning this one?
It is difficult. I've got Tennessee just kind of nudging their way to a victory on the somehow defensively. I think otherwise this is going to be a shootout, and I think Tennessee will just inch their way into winning by kicking a last-minute field goal or some such.
I think this could be high scoring. I can't favour the Titans over the Raiders in a shootout. The Raiders have the experience of that type of game. They were in a few of those last year.
Unfortunately, I do have to agree there.
Oh yeah.
It's certainly a fascinating matchup.
Another two players from both sides to look out for in this game, I think, which again will become factors in this game. As receivers, I think Tywan Taylor, he's kind of flown under the radar. I think he's been getting a great connection with Mariota over preseason. I think look out for him in this game, and I think Cordell Patterson as well.
He's always got the potential to break a play or two in the return game. I don't see him being involved other than that, but
Tennessee struggled to cover slot guys. That's the only reason I say this.
Fair enough. We'll move on to another really interesting game, I think. An NFC East battle, the Eagles against the Redskins.
Yeah.
So,
it's Cousins time. Woo!
Yeah, your bizarre Kirk Cousins man crush.
Hey man, I can't explain it. I believe.
So, where to start with this one? I mean, this has one of my favourite matchups for this whole season.
Yeah.
The Eagles front four versus the Redskins O-line.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good battle. The Redskins have the most underrated line in football.
Yeah.
They're great. And the Eagles in how this one goes. So,
this game has potential as well. This is a game which is, I can't call this game. I really can't.
It's tough. The Eagles have changed so much.
Yeah.
Like, they've totally revamped. The offense is Carson Wentz and the same O-line. The rest of it's totally different.
Yeah.
And then the D-line's got a couple of additions. The linebackers, pretty much the same. And a whole new secondary. Like, how can you assess a team like that? You've got to see them first.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there's not a lot of weapons on the offensive side for the Redskins. I mean, you still got Jordan Reed.
He might not be playing.
Is he might injured?
Yeah, he's always injured.
This is true. But yeah, there's not a lot of weapons there then on that offense.
I mean, Terrell Pryor hasn't really seemed to connect in it's only pre-season, but I mean, if him, Crowder, and then they've got their first rounder from last year can all connect, then I think, yeah, the weapons are there. It's just
not reliable.
Very new. Yeah, before, Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon, you knew what you were getting from those two.
Yeah.
The line's good enough. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob.
No.
I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat Rob. I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball with Fat How are you, Dan? How are you evaluating your boy Kirk? How do you think he's going to fare in this one?
Well, as you said, the problem is obviously the chemistry between the receivers and Cousins could actually be the downfall of the team. I don't know, man. It's NFC East games are just bananas to call sometimes.
Yeah, they're just weird. They are just logic goes out the window.
Well, I mean, okay. Take the offensive side aside. What about defensively? I mean, obviously, Washington have got pretty good D at the moment. Not amazing, but yeah, you've got Josh Norman as the X factor to take away.
They've got Josh Norman. They've got Ryan Kerrigan, Jonathan Allen. I'm looking forward to seeing him in his first action. But I think the Redskins have a lot of holes defensively, and that's probably why I would just edge ahead with Philly. I think both teams you might see some chemistry issues. There's a lot of changes on offense for both sides. Whole new receiver groups. But I just think Philly are a bit more of a complete team. They got a fair few weapons on offense. I think they'll be able to keep Wentz clean. I think Cousins is going to feel some pressure in this game, even with that great line, and I think that will probably end up being the difference. I think the Eagles just about win it. They've got a lot of talent. I think it carries them over the line, but I think it could be a bit messy.
Oh yeah, this is definitely going to be one of the messier games. Initially I did have Washington picked, but to be honest with you, I'm going to change that. I have to give the edge to the Eagles here. I think they've got a more, as you said, they've got more of a complete team, generally speaking, compared to Washington. So I think they can edge this one out. I mean, I think we said last week though, I still think the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFC East. So
they could be. They certainly could be. But who knows? Arnie, where are you lying on this one?
Again, it's a very difficult one. It's a call. I've got to give the edge to Washington just because of their quarterback.
That's fair.
And I think Jay Gruden, again, I've got the coaching wise, I like Jay Gruden as a coach. So, I mean, we were looking at actually having him in Tennessee. So,
fair dues. Well, move on to the late games, and we'll have another quick one. Get this one out of the way quickly. Indianapolis against the LA Rams. No Drew Luck, no Aaron Donald, potentially. Why would I want to watch this game now?
There is no watchability for this game. If Andrew Luck was there, Colts win. Andrew Luck's not there. I don't know.
The Colts are the great unknown, especially without Andrew Luck. I got no idea. I'm expecting it to be bad.
I think LA would take this game.
I'm just going to call this. This is going to be one of those terrible tie games. I mean, I'm starting to think we need like a custom graphic on this podcast with tire fire alert, because man, this is oh god.
It's hard to get excited about watching this one. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the Rams' offense looks with Sean McVay running the show now. Jared Goff in year 2. He might actually have an O-line. You've got Gurley, you've got Watkins, Cooper Kupp. They're interested, and the Colts have an entirely new defense. So that's matchup's quite interesting. When you throw things to the other side, not so much.
Pretty
the
much
Colts offense against a Wade Phillips defense with some talent on it. Yeah, Rams have this one for me.
Yeah. I mean, I've said before on the show that I love Sean McVay as a coach. I love what Cooper Kupp's been doing as well. But for me, this is all Rams. It will be the Todd Gurley show.
Yeah, I've pretty much got the same. I didn't even really bother thinking about this when I saw the matchup. I was just wrote down LA, job done.
Yeah.
Discussion really.
It's going to be a rare thing where we will have so much confidence in the Rams winning a game. It says a lot about Indy without luck.
Yeah. And just for any Rams fans listening, this is the first and last time we're going to have that confidence in you guys winning. So don't you worry.
All right, on to one of the games of the week. unless you're Dan, who's not excited about this for some weird reason, the Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers.
This is my favourite matchup this week.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
I cannot wait for this game. I mean, you've got two of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league right now against each other. You've got the great defense with Seattle. What more can you say about this game? It will be an amazing game to watch.
Bar the fact that the Packers don't have a defense, thus will probably lose anyway. This is why I'm not excited about it. The Packers have got nothing except Aaron Rodgers and some receivers.
Aaron Rodgers is enough.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is often enough.
Yeah, that's why, the year they won the Super Bowl, they happened to have a half-decent team. Since then, bupkis.
Their defense has some pieces. I mean, the thing is, this Seahawks team still has its flaws. Whilst defensively they're pretty great, especially with the Richardson additions, hard to really see too many faults there.
Yeah.
Their offense is highly questionable. They do rely on Russell Wilson to make some ridiculous plays because their O-line, until it shows me otherwise, is not it is really poor.
Well, I suppose the other thing to bear in mind is this is the Seahawks. Provided I've written this down correctly, it is at Green Bay, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Then maybe the Packers can pull it out, but no, the Seahawks are just too good. Why I'm not that excited about it. The most I can hope for is another Hail Mary game.
This is two teams where home field advantage it really, really makes a difference.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Of course, I see the Packers. They're going to get their yards. That as good as this defense is, they're going to get their yards. They're going to get some points. It's the other side of the matchup is what I'm not so sure about. Because the Packers, whilst they've got their flaws defensively, I do think they can bring some pressure with Nick Perry. If Clay Matthews can turn back the years a little, then I think this team's going to be... It's going to have that going for it. And Kenny Clark as well, a former first-round pick, I think he'll take some strides this year. It's just, can they generate enough pressure to stop Russell Wilson? I'm not so sure. So I've got to give the edge to the Seahawks for that reason.
Yeah, for me it'd be the Seahawks.
Yeah, I've got... It's probably obvious by now. I've got the Seahawks. I don't see Green Bay pulling this one out against that league.
No, they are at home. It's certainly one that could go either way. You know, especially with Aaron Rodgers, if he turns up and has one of his top tier games, then there's not really a lot of defense can do. But the Seahawks defense is just really hard to bet against them. All right, move on to one that's not so fascinating. Carolina against San Francisco.
Carolina will win.
Carolina will win.
Yeah, I hate saying it, but yeah. I look at this. I think the San Fran defense is going to impress a lot of people this year. I'm not sure it's going to happen too early in the season, but they've got so much young talent there. I can't wait to see Reuben Foster in the NFL. That
is one addition I'm waiting to see.
Oh yeah, he's gonna hit some dudes.
But on the other side,
this
the ball
offense looks awful.
Yeah, there's nothing there. I mean, they've got Pierre Garçon now.
Pierre Garçon, fine possession receiver. Marquise Goodwin can run fast, and Carlos Hyde. You've got Brian Hoyer, who's about as uninspiring at quarterback as you can get. Yeah. I just think the Panthers have just got too much talent to lose this game. Christian McCaffrey, a great addition. And I think their defense will be good enough to keep the Niners out. I think this one's probably pretty ugly, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
If the Panthers do somehow lose, it'll be on Cam. Or the O-line. A combination of the two. Because that O-line is bad. And I could see the Niners getting after him.
We will see. But I definitely think the Panthers will take that.
Yeah. Dan?
Oh no, I already said Panthers. I mean, as you said, San Fran have made some good moves. The defense is got a lot better than it was. A lot more everything better than last year.
Yeah, they could not stop at all last season.
Yeah, I mean, the most you can hope for is a major upset and Cam Newton pulls a Super Bowl Cam Newton and just can't do anything.
If there's going to be an upset this week, a major one, this would be the game I would choose, though. And that is simply because that San Fran defense, that line has so much talent on it, they could potentially just overwhelm this Carolina front. I don't think it's going to happen, but if I had to pick one game to have a surprise upset, this would actually be that game.
Oh, see, now I'd go for the Browns beating the Steelers. I mean, we thought that them beating the Chargers last year was like them winning the Super Bowl. Imagine if they got Pittsburgh. Jesus Christ.
I don't want to see the Deshaun Kaiser hype train if that happens.
And the Browns would be at home as well. They basically would have won the Super Bowl.
Alright, we'll move on to the next game. The Sunday Night Football game. I think we're all probably excited to watch this one.
Yeah.
Surely. The Giants and the Cowboys. This game's going to be loopy.
With the fact that we have Ezekiel Elliott in this game as well, I mean, again, this is another game that could go either way.
Yeah.
I love that Giants defense way too much. And
me too. They're fantastic.
With the fact of the non-apparent defense of the
Nondescript is the word for the Cowboys' defense. That's
where I was trying to go with that. But I mean, the offense is fairly similar, apart from the fact that obviously one has a
the Cowboys have one of the best lines. The Giants don't have one.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends if Odell plays in this game. For me, I think that will be the key. I think that offense will be quite lost without him there.
Well, there's also the other thing as well. When you're comparing Odell Beckham playing or not, you're comparing QBs. You've got Eli and Dak. Eli is kind of, known for the old turnovers and making the mistakes. He's not the most consistent in the world. I think Dak proved last year he was, even without Zeke, he would be more consistent quarterback at the time.
Well, that's the interesting thing for me with Dak Prescott. It's just seeing how much more they ask him to do this year. Because last year, he might attempt 20 to 25 passes a game, which is incredibly rare in today's NFL. And I just feel like they're going to ask him to do a little more, because when you do play the top teams, you want to present that bit more of a threat. And, you want to get Des Bryant involved. This is a really tough one to call, because there are similarities and there's differences. Like, as strong as the Cowboys' offense looks really talented and deep at every level. Got a good receiving group, good quarterback, great running back, great O-line, and then they're going up against that great Giants defense.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the ball, question marks everywhere. To one of the worst O-lines in the league, with who knows who at running back, Paul Perkins from the looks of things, who looked okay at times. And I mean, the Cowboys' defense is Sean Lee. No one else is really proven there. The safety's quite good. On his first round a couple of years ago, his name was. I think if Odell Beckham plays, I favour the Giants in this one, because I cannot see, if all the weapons are out there for New York, Dallas containing them.
No, and we all know that the one team that stopped them full stop last year was.
Yeah, the Giants' defense is just good enough to. Yeah. This Cowboys team did a great job controlling the clock and just running all over teams last year. Not the Giants.
No, they could not do that with the Giants.
It's good. And Harrison, Pierre-Paul, Vernon, they all play the run well. That's the thing. They've got two pass rushing ends who are great against the run.
And I think this will be the exact same sort of matchup and the exact same thing that will happen in this game.
Yeah, and Lance Collins.
I do have the Giants taking this game. I think it will be a bananas game, because it always is, especially with the week one.
Yep. How about you, Dan? Where do you lie on this one?
See, this is the problem. I initially had Dallas picked because Zeke had come back. But the problem, and this is going to be a theme all year for the Cowboys, is offensively you're great, but when your defense is just unknown across the board, you're so open to losing games that way. I mean, to be honest, even without Odell, I'm probably actually going to give this to the Giants, just because they're a more well-rounded team. Like, yeah, Eli has the turnover issue, as he always bloody does, but I think they're the better all-round team, while Dallas are very one-dimensional. Great offense, but it's just meh for the defense.
You never know. Like, that's the thing. This Cowboys defense could end up being good. There's not many unknown elements, but yeah, I think the Cowboys look. It doesn't look like. I mean, expecting it maybe to come together isn't necessarily too crazy, but in week 1, that's asking a lot. So we'll move on to the Monday night games, and we've got the Adrian Peterson revenge game as New Orleans head to Minnesota.
Wait,
First off, what kind of a reception do we think Adrian Peterson's going to get?
Boost.
So no heroes welcome, booed out the building.
No, booed out the building. He basically. Yeah, don't forget, we are talking about Minnesota here. Their fans are crazy.
That's true. Well, you'd be too if you'd had so many disappointing Super Bowl losses and nearly type seasons. They've had it rough.
Yeah. Although, look, just quickly, is he confirmed as the starting running back, or do you reckon, or what?
They don't really have one. It's going to be a platoon.
He will get probably more snaps in this game.
What, 'cause
but
of where it is.
Yeah.
Well, if he's certainly going to be motivated. I don't doubt that. So I love this matchup.
I love the matchup on one side of it.
Yeah. I mean, the Saints offense, the Vikings defense, two of the best units in the league.
The other side of the ball, I'm not looking forward to that.
Two of the worst units in the league going at it.
if we could just have the Saints offense and the Vikings defense on the field the whole game, I'd love it. But I don't see the Vikings winning if that happens.
So what we're saying is it's basically like the Dallas-New York game. The Dallas offense versus the Giants defense.
The difference is, the Giants offense, whilst it's got its glaring issues, at least it's got, a cadre of great receivers. Yeah. This one is just two absolute polar opposite teams. The Vikings. So, how do we think the Vikings match up against the Saints' offense? I think they match up
very well,
pretty well, because they're quite good in the secondary.
Yeah,
they're very good against the run, and it's easy to suspect the Saints are going to be more run heavy this year. People have said it a million times, and it never happens. But surely this is the year, especially because I think with O-line injuries, Teron Armstead missing, I feel like they probably don't want to be pass protecting so much against a really good pass rush team.
No, I mean, even then on the other side of the ball, you've got to remember that the Saints have had a couple of injuries on there.
They've got Willie Snead missing as well because of suspension. I think that's pretty. It leaves them quite. This is the thinnest group of receivers the Saints have had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I favour the Vikings on this one purely for the fact of we've seen that Sam Bradford is able to pull out games. And I think the Vikings defense will just be able to shut Breeze, well, not completely shut Breeze down, because we all know what Breeze is capable of. But I think the non-existent of the Saints defense, and I think even though Vikings don't have a lot of weapons on receivers, I still think they'll be able to pull this out.
I think they're okay at receiver. Thielen showed some things last year. For me, I favour the Vikings simply because until this New Orleans defence shows me something, I can't see them beating a good team. And, the Vikings, the problem with the offence is simply that offensive line was garbage last year, and it looks like garbage in pre-season. If they can get anything going, then Dalvin Cook, I think, is back. Bradford's fine. The receiving group is solid, unspectacular but solid.
Yeah,
I think they'll have enough. But the caveat to that is I don't know what to expect from this Saints defence. I'm just expecting the worst because it's the Saints' defence.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot of changes. Cameron Jordan's a stud. Sheldon Rankins played well in the second half of last year when he got healthy. And there's just been so much change. So that they could surprise some people. But until this defence shows me it's good, I think the Vikings are good enough to keep Breeze contained. Especially with some of the missing linemen and weapons.
Oh, yeah.
They're hard to run on. I give the edge to the Vikings.
See, the only
But
thing,
if the Saints' defence is not rubbish, I'll give it to the Saints.
the only thing I've got going against the Vikings here is New Orleans leading. How are they going to catch up? They can't. That's the problem. If the defense, the Vikings got a good D, they have a very good D. But if they let slip a touchdown or a touchdown on a field goal and don't answer point for point, they've lost this by a mile. And that's what New Orleans are really good at doing. Everyone knows this. New Orleans.
Yeah, but that's the story of the Saints on a weekly basis. That's like the last 3 or 4 years in New Orleans, and it equates to 8-8, 7-9 football.
Yeah, I know, but that's my point for this matchup. If the Saints can pull out an early lead, to put the icing on top of the cake, getting a touchdown with Peterson, they can get that early lead. The Vikings got nothing offensively, even against that Saints D. Nothing offensively to catch back.
Well,
you're taking the Saints.
Oh yeah, Drew Brees versus Sam Bradford. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, as we were just saying. Like, again, obviously, I disagree because I'm taking the Vikings, but it's not like there's nothing on that Minnesota offense. They have.
It's just the line.
Yeah, I don't think the receivers are probably as good as you might say they are, but with Dalvin Cook there. Sam Bradford, we know, can pull out games. Okay, yeah, he's not great, but he's when he is playing a backup spot, he is one of the best backups in the league.
Oh, Rudolph's okay. They're a solid bunch. They're just not particularly explosive.
Exactly, but I think that even if the Saints pull out a 14-0 lead, I think the Vikings defense will be able to shut them down for the rest of the game. You do need
to bear in mind one thing. With this Saints team, for these first 3 weeks, they're lining up Ted Ginn as their number 2 wide receiver in all likelihood.
Yeah,
this is the weakest group of weapons in the passing game Breeze has had, because he'll be thrown to Kobe Fleener, Ted Ginn, and Michael Thomas was great as a rookie, but at the end of the day, is year 2, you don't know.
Yeah. And I think the Vikings defense is just too much for them. And I think Xavier Rhodes will shut Michael Thomas down. Leaves them with Ted Ginn, who we all know drops a lot of passes as well, and Kobe Fleener, who hasn't really shown too much yet.
Kobe Fleener's just not good, yeah.
Yeah. The edge goes to the Vikings, quite clearly.
Fair enough. So we're split on this one. So then that leaves us with one final game. We've got the new LA Chargers, which still sounds wrong to me. I don't like it.
It does.
Versus the Denver Broncos. So I'll throw this out there quickly. We might see 1 or 2 quarterbacks die in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This game comes down to who gets the better pass rush. And the line
favoured the Chargers.
Yeah. The lines on both aren't fantastic. But just with the Chargers injuries and stuff like that, well, I've got to go with the Chargers just purely for the fact of Phillip Rivers. I think the Chargers have more of an offense that will put them in this game.
Fair enough. Dan, what's your thoughts? I've got Denver winning this just because that Denver defense, that's all you need. I mean their offense plays fairly mistake-free football. Do what they need to manage the clock. Chargers, I've just never trusted Phil Rivers. But this has been a bugbear for years between me and Convoy. I can't stand him. I don't know why. I just don't. I think the Denver defense will prove too much. That pass rush is going to get to him too often for him to actually...
Bear in mind, Shane Ray's not playing.
I think that Denver defense has... There's still quite a lot of holes in that defense. It's a very good group.
In the front seven, they definitely are.
We especially saw it the one game just from last year that sticks out in my mind, given the fact Tennessee played them last year, was when Tennessee played them, and we ran all over them. And
there were a couple of games like last year where teams trampled them. They've not replaced Malik Jackson.
No.
That's been an issue. They've got worse at linebacker. DeMarcus Ware's gone. Shane Ray showed some promise, but he's out until November, I believe, with a wrist injury. The secondary is still great, but the front seven's an issue. I've got the Chargers winning this game because I can't see the Broncos getting enough offense. Their run game they haven't had a run game in years. No. The offensive line, whilst I think it will be better, they've got to deal with Bosa and Ingram. That's going to be too much for them. It's a good secondary on both sides of the ball. Like both teams good in that department. This is the best corner matchup in the league at the moment, by the way. In terms of want to watch a lot of good corners on the field, this is the game for you. And I just think with the injuries that the Broncos have and the way the Broncos offense matches up with the Chargers defense, I think the Chargers will win this game. Melvin Gordon being the X factor, I think Melvin Gordon has a big game and ends up being the difference personally. Yeah,
and that's my exact thing. There's going to be a lot of pounding up the gut. They're going to take a lot of time off the clock, and I think that's what's going to decide this matchup is the clock management in this game.
If the Broncos win, it'll be because the secondary or Von Miller make a massive play.
Yeah.
Although that's how it is most weeks.
Well, I'd probably, to be honest, probably going to change my pick and actually go with the Chargers.
We talked you into it.
Yeah, I mean, I had actually forgotten the Tennessee Denver game where they ran all over them. So yeah, I actually forgot about that. So yeah, no, I'm going to go with the Chargers, and Chargers do have more offensive weapons. So
the Chargers have a ton of weapons. It's just whether they can protect Rivers.
Yeah. We get to see if Allen will show up as well.
Yeah, so there we go. That's week 1. Since we don't get to talk about the Buccaneers and the Dolphins.
Just out of interest, who would you, just off the top of your head, who would you have picked?
Bucks.
Arnie?
Bucks.
Have you looked at the Dolphins secondary?
I want to say...
That's an easy matchup.
I want to be contrarian and just say the Dolphins, because I want Jay Cutler to go banana nut butters for one game.
No.
Everyone has the Bucks picked for that.
Yeah.
It's simply, I think it's a bad matchup for the Dolphins with the changes that the Buccaneers made this off-season. The Buccaneers are very strong up the middle in terms of defensively with Gerald McCoy and Baker there. Yeah, this Dolphins team, it's all about Jay Ajayi. Once he gets going, the rest of the offense does. And the Buccaneers, I think, are going to be one of the better run defenses in the league. And then you look on the other side of the ball where you've got a really good pass rush from Miami, but the rest of the defense is a giant question mark. And then the Buccaneers are just loaded with receiving weapons.
And we will find out. We'll find out in week 11.
We'll find out in week 11. Brilliant. So yeah, that's that. So there we go. In spite of the bad news, still very much looking forward to week 1. I mean, I get to enjoy it in a different way. Normally I like the bye week because it's like my week without stress. It's just when it's week 1 and you've been building it up, it's that much more disappointing.
That's what you get for being in Florida.
Well, it's better if I go on holiday than certain other teams. But yeah, that's the show for today. So tomorrow I'm going to be doing a far more detailed few episodes breaking down individual matchups on both sides of the ball, discussing each game. So if you've enjoyed this and you want a bit more depth, a bit more X's and O's talk, check those episodes out tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly what the format will be. You've got to see how long they end up being. So definitely check them out. We've done previous episodes the last few weeks. Why wouldn't you check them out if you've enjoyed this? They're a little bit cleaner as well verbally, but I was annoyed. I stand by it. And yeah, if you like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. Always greatly appreciated. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you two guys for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been fun as always.
Yeah, always is. Otherwise we wouldn't do it. So Hope everyone enjoys week 1. It's going to be a good one. Have a great weekend and go Bucks.
Not this week though.
Well, no.